Hi, good afternoon, everybody. And my name is Hanlie, and I'm the Head for Work Coordinator here at Mindfulness Harrow. And my role is mainly to provide health and well-being training for whoever needs it. We focus on the workplace, but also for volunteers. And I've done a lot of training with carers from all over the country. So I just want to say, welcome to this webinar this afternoon. I'm great to see so many of you have joined us. And what is our aim for today? Why are we really here? So we are really here this afternoon to explore what carers can do to incorporate daily habits into their lives to boost their well-being, emotional health, and resilience. And I'm going to share some resilience habits with you. And I hope you will bear with and practice some with me while we do this, because the whole point of this is that we can practice and see if it really works. And towards the end of the webinar, we're also going to look at what support is available out there that you can access. And if you find it useful and you like to take notes, as Ruth said, this webinar will be recorded, but it might be useful for you afterwards to if you want to look at some notes. So feel free to get a pen and paper or pencil, whatever you think might be useful for you, and you might see that some of these habits might be something that you can incorporate. Right. So what can we do as carers to incorporate these habits into our lives every day? Our emotional well-being and how resilient we feel every day are often connected to our thoughts, our emotions, and our feelings. And on challenging days, it's easy to get carried away by these thoughts, these emotions and feelings, and they often don't feel very easy or useful. They can feel very challenging. And they could fill us with worries, anxiety, and easily take over. And one way to cope better with this is to ensure that they don't take up the majority of your day. And this sounds easy, but can be really tough because caring is very hard. And it's very hard to stop throughout your day, even for a minute here or there, and just think, what is going well for me? So therefore, I would like to introduce and share with you daily habits that you can incorporate that will give you a break from overwhelming thoughts and feelings. These habits will not solve problems or make them go away, but they will feel and give you the ability to feel that you are more able to cope, that you feel maybe more resilient to carry on, and that they can boost your emotional well-being. And it really helps me when I incorporate these habits to think of them as brushing my teeth every day, hopefully twice a day. And I don't even think about it. I just do it. It's become part of my life. And just as teeth brushing is part of our lives, it can be just as easy and quick to incorporate some of these habits. Now, there's nothing here that is going to be very difficult to do or that is going to take a lot of time to do, because we know that carers have such a lot to do every day, and that time is very precious for you. But I also think it's a good habit to invest 5 or 10 minutes a day in yourself, because what you're doing is you're investing in your own well-being. All of the habits we're going to talk about has been proved with research to be beneficial. Some of the habits we're going to discuss will help to kick in the parasympathetic nervous system. It is also sometimes called the rest and digest system, because the parasympathetic nervous system conserves energy as it slows the heart rate. Other habits we're going to discuss are linked to dopamine and serotonin, both of which are neurotransmitters. Dopamine plays a big role in motivation and reward, and serotonin is involved in how you process your emotion, and that can affect your overall mood. Don't worry, you don't have to remember any of this, because I'll be referring to these again when we explore the resilience habits together. So let's get cracking. So these are the 5 resilience habits we're going to look at today. We're going to look at breathing. We're going to look at how to be present, the benefits of keeping a journal and how to do it. How can practicing gratitude help us? And my personal favorite, and I've left it right to the end, finding your thin slice of joy. So let's get started with the first one. When you don't have a lot of time in your day and you have a lot to do, most of us forget to breathe properly. And if we feel stressed or overwhelmed, our breathing is often quite rapid and shallow. Then we get used to breathing this way and we don't even realize that we're not making the most of our breath. By breathing in, we activate the part of our nervous system known as the stress response. This is often called the fight or flight response. The heart rate increases, we get more alert, and overall tension increases. I think we're all familiar with that feeling. When we breathe out or exhale, we activate the rest and digest part of our nervous system. When we exhale, our heart rate slows down and we feel more relaxed. So by changing our breathing pattern, we can indirectly change our physiology. You can make small changes to your breathing and feel relaxed and calmer. And a great way of doing this is the 4-8 breath. So what is the 4-8 breath? Very easy. With 4-8 breathing, you elongate the out breath to help kick in that rest and digest system. So in 4-8 breathing, you breathe in through your nose for a count of 4 and out through your mouth for a count of 8. So when you exhale, it really helps to purse your lips like you're blowing out a candle, because this will help slow down the exhale. Don't worry if your nose is stuffy, just breathe in and out through your mouth instead. My top tip for you is when you do the inhale, do it slowly while counting to 4 instead of taking a rapid inhale, because this may increase the stress response instead of calming it down. So I'd often do this when I'm commuting or I feel stressed. The day is maybe becoming a little bit overwhelming and I stop and I think 4-8 breathing. The main thing with a habit like this is to incorporate it daily so that you can access it quite quickly when you need it, because it's quite hard to remember this on a day that we feel overwhelmed and it doesn't feel like we have any brain power left. So shall we try this activity together if you want to? So it helps if you sit, but you can also do it standing. And what we do is we're going to inhale through the nose for a count of 4 and exhale through the mouth for a count of 8, and I will count for us. So let's do the inhale. 2, 3, 4. Purse your lips and exhale. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And inhale. And exhale. Purse the lips. 6, 7, 8. It often makes me quite sleepy when I do this, I have to say. Shall we repeat it 2 more times? My magical number is normally 10, but find your magical number when you do this. It is really when you start feeling a little bit more relaxed. Okay, so in through the mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Purse your lips and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When I said in through the mouth, I meant in through the nose, didn't I? Okay, so in through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. And out through the mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I hope you haven't fallen asleep. The thing about these 5 habits is it doesn't really matter if one isn't working for you, because we're going to look at 4 more. And you might think, this one works, this one doesn't work. And sometimes you just remember it when it's the right time for you to remember it. And then it works. This habit will work even if you don't want it to work, because it's physiological. And what you will find by practicing this breathing technique, you will effectively lower your stress response, and therefore it will improve your physical, emotional, and cognitive health. I know it sounds like a really simple thing to do. Often when we look for solutions, we're looking for the big things. But sometimes it's these small daily things that can really make a difference. Okay, so that's our first habit, 4-8 breaths. That didn't take long, did it? So let's move on to our second habit, which was being in the present. Um, and those of you who have access to computers might see there's a shoe in a fridge. So scientists say we spend about 47% of the time in our heads. Have you ever come into a room and wondered what you were doing there? Or opened the fridge but forgotten why? I think I can see you nodding. These are classic examples of being in your head. And what happens is, being in the present is a great thing. But what we find often, our bodies are present, but our minds really are not. Often we don't pay attention. So even while you're listening to this webinar, you might be thinking of other things. You might think, oh, did I remember to take that out the freezer? And I wonder if I go to Tesco, I need to get there before 4 o'clock to get a parking. And this is happening while you're listening. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it becomes excessive and it starts to take over, because often what happens when our minds are lost in thoughts, they tend to worry. And as you can see, for those of you that have access to computers, they sometimes go into the past and we start ruminating about things that's happened, or they go into the future and we start worrying about things that might happen. Thinking can be very useful, but if we spend too much time obsessing about things that have already passed or worrying about things that might happen in the future, it just stresses us out. And it doesn't solve problems, but it also takes away some of our brain power to access to solve problems. So reliving things that have already happened or worrying about things that probably never will happen means that we can miss life as it passes us by. So really what we want to do is train our brain to refocus our attention on the present moment, because that can help reduce the amount of time spent needlessly worrying. It can help to create headspace, to take away some of the intensity of what we are feeling, and it can also give us some perspective. A great way of doing this is to engage all of your 5 senses, and you really don't need a lot of time for this. This can also be called a grounding exercise. And again, it's not going to solve the problems on your to-do list, but you probably will feel better equipped to deal with them. This particular exercise is also really helpful if you are feeling anxious about something. Even if you are feeling slightly panicky, this can be really useful. So if you are sitting down, that's good. Try to sit in a comfortable upright position with your feet flat on the ground. It's always good when we're in the present to try and have our feet on the ground. It is a grounding technique. And just breathe normally. Just normal, even breaths. Don't worry about the technique. Just allow your relaxing breaths to enter deeply and exhale fully. And now we are going to engage each of our 5 senses, one at a time for at least a few minutes. So we're going to start with sight, what we can see. So acknowledge 5 things you can see around you. It could be a pen. It could be a spot on a ceiling. It could be a color. It could be a water bottle. But really make a note of what you're seeing. And I find what really helps me when I do this is if I say in my head what I'm seeing. I see a fan, I see a stapler, I see a desk, I see a pair of scissors, I see a water bottle. Sometimes when I'm doing this when I'm out, I try to spot colors and see if I can see red, or blue, or green, and I sometimes look for a specific color. Once you've found 5 things you can see, let's go to our second sense of touch and acknowledge 4 things you can touch around you. It could be your hair, it could be a pillow, it could be the ground under your feet, anything around you that you can touch. I hope everybody's found 4 things. And then we move on to our hearing, acknowledging 3 things that you can hear. This could be any external sound. If you can hear your belly rumbling, that counts as well. Focus on things you can hear outside of your body. It's also very important that while you're doing this exercise is not to judge any of the things that you can see or feel or hear, but just to name them. They're not bad sounds or good sounds, they're just sounds. And then it's time to move on to what we can smell. So acknowledge 2 things you can smell. Maybe in a bedroom or in your kitchen, you can smell something from what you've cooked earlier. Maybe you're in the bathroom and you can maybe smell something that you've sprayed earlier, or maybe you've cleaned somewhere and you can smell that cleaning product that you've used. Or even if you sharpened a pencil, maybe you can smell the pencil shavings. Or maybe you're one of those people that like to keep essential oils nearby and you can smell that. Yeah, if you need to take a brief walk to find a scent, you can do that. You can get up and have a walk around, even outside, if it would be helpful. And then our last one is to acknowledge 1 thing we can taste. Now, maybe you've just eaten something, or maybe you're busy eating something, which in that case would be a great help. But you can just think about what the inside of your mouth tastes like. Maybe you had a coffee earlier or a tea, or you've chewed some gum. And that's the end of that grounding exercise. So a good way to end it is to take a deep breath in and out. I really often find this exercise useful if I feel anxious, or even when I feel panicky. But sometimes when that happens, I really forget what is 5 and what is 4 and what is 3. Am I supposed to see 5 things, touch 4 things? And what I want to say is it doesn't really matter about the number. If you want to see 10 things and smell 4 things and touch 7 things, it really doesn't matter. It's just the concept of engaging your senses, and it brings you into the present. And it grounds you and it creates a little bit of headspace. And again, it calms you down. And it just really sometimes gives you that bit of resilience you need to be able to focus again on a problem, or to be able to solve something that you find really hard to solve. What really sometimes happens, if you had an overwhelming emotion, it takes away the intensity of that emotion. And that can be helpful. So that is our second resilience habit. And you can see, as I promised, these habits really don't take long. They can just take a few minutes out of your day. This grounding exercise, or focusing our attention, some people also like to call it mindfulness. And there's various ways to be mindful. If you are finding it difficult to sit quietly and focus, you can also have mindfulness activities. So it doesn't have to be a passive activity, sitting in a chair. It can just be an activity that really requires you to focus on what you are doing. Carers who've shared tips with us often mention activities they enjoy, something that requires concentration, such as a crossword or a puzzle. Mindful colouring has been mentioned. We do get a lot of adult colouring books, and colouring in between the lines can really require some attention. A lot of people have said that they enjoy that. And another popular method is reading, because it's a method of relaxation, but also about taking time for yourself. Right. And we're on to our third resilience habit, which is writing down some of these thoughts, feelings, and emotions that are challenging, or that might sometimes be hard to bear. When you were a teenager, you might have kept a diary hidden under your mattress. or if you are a teenager, you might still be doing that, probably online now. And it was a place to confess your struggles and fears without judgment or punishment. It likely felt good to get all of those thoughts and feelings out of your head and down on paper. The world seemed clearer. And you may have stopped doing that once you reached adulthood, but the concept and its benefits still apply. People refer to it as journaling, but it's simply writing down your thoughts and feelings to understand them more clearly. And if you struggle with stress, depression, or anxiety, keeping a journal is a great idea. It can help you gain control of your emotions and improve your mental health. One of the ways to deal with any overwhelming emotion is to find a healthy way to express yourself. So journaling can reduce that anxiety and stress, but the interesting thing I find about journaling is it can also help you prioritize your problems, fears, and concerns. Sometimes tracking symptoms day to day, you can also recognize what are your triggers and learn ways to better control them. I often talk to people who say afterwards, when they look at their journal, they think, did I really react like that? Oh no, that seems a bit excessive. When they look at the problem maybe 2 days later, it just puts it into perspective. But also, it really provides an opportunity for positive self-talk and identifying negative thoughts and behaviors. What are these negative thoughts and behaviors? And why do I tend to dwell on them? And what can I do to have more positive self-talk? So when you have a problem and you're stressed, keeping a journal can help you identify what's causing that stress or anxiety. Once you've identified, you can work on a plan to resolve it. So if you think this might be something that might work for you and you want to go and buy a new notebook and get a pen, then how can you do it? It's really not hard. So here are some tips to get started with it. Try to write every day. Just set aside a few minutes. A lot of people say to me they find it really helpful to do first thing in the morning. And I have spoken to people who say they shred whatever they've written afterwards, which really, when we talk about reflecting and putting into perspective later on, doesn't help, but it's whatever works for you. If you think, no, I'd rather get rid of this, but just getting it out really helps, then do that. But make it easy. Keep a pen and paper handy at all times. Some people I've spoken to say it really helps when they wake up in the night, especially 3, 4 o'clock, and they can't go back to sleep. Sometimes just writing down their worries on paper, it's like they've taken it out of their heads and they've put it down somewhere, and it allows them to relax and go back to sleep. If you prefer, you can also do it on a computer. Write whatever feels right to you. This is not the time that your writing work is going to be graded. Nobody's going to look at punctuation or spelling or structure. So just let the words flow freely. It's your own private place to discuss whatever you want. And use your journal as you see fit. You don't have to share it with anyone. But if you think it might be helpful to share some thoughts with trusted friends or loved ones, you could show them parts of your journal. Keeping a journal helps you create order when your world feels like it's in chaos. You get to know yourself by revealing your most private fears, thoughts, and feelings. And look at your writing time as personal relaxation time. It's a time when you can distress and wind down. Write in a place that's relaxing and soothing, maybe with a cup of tea, and look forward to your journaling time. Know that what you're doing is good for your mind and your body. Right, so we've done 3 resilience habits. We have 2 more left. And our next one is practicing gratitude. So some of you might keep a gratitude journal. People sometimes enjoy doing that. Recently, scientists have begun to chart a course of research aimed at understanding gratitude and the circumstances in which it flourishes or diminishes. And they have found that people who practice gratitude consistently really reported a host of benefits, such as higher levels of positive emotions. They felt more joyful, optimistic, and happy. They acted with more generosity and compassion. And also, very importantly, they felt less lonely and isolated. So, why does gratitude work? The benefits of gratitude start with the dopamine system because feeling grateful activates the brain stem region that produces dopamine. Dopamine feels good to get, which is why it's generally considered the reward neurotransmitter. And additionally, gratitude towards others increases activity in social dopamine circuits, which makes social interactions more enjoyable. Great for Christmas time and Easter time coming up, isn't it? One powerful effect of gratitude is that it can boost serotonin. Trying to think of things you are grateful for forces you to focus on the positive aspects of your life. Now, this can be really hard sometimes if you're having a tough day. And as a carer, most of your days are tough. You don't have a lot of time to stop, not even time to stop and think, what am I grateful for? But just think that serotonin is involved in how we process our emotion, and it can actually affect your overall mood. So it is really helpful. Shall we try a gratitude activity? If you have a pen and paper, feel free to write it down. But the beauty of this activity is all you have to do is think of it. And it doesn't really matter what comes at the end of today I'm grateful for. It's not the thing at the end that counts. It's remembering to do it. And that is what is good for your brain. So, what are we grateful for today? Just take a few seconds to think. Recently, in the building where I live, we had no water because of a problem in the street with some of the pipes. So I am very grateful for running water today. So the real benefit of this activity happens when you do it every day for a few minutes. It's the consistency. That is when you're going to see the payoff. And we're on to our last resilient habit. As I said, my personal favorite, and it's called a thin slice of joy. I just like saying this, really, a thin slice of joy. It sounds brilliant. And where does it come from? It actually comes from a retired Google software engineer called Chait-Ming Tang. And he describes this 3-second mental exercise for finding joy. And it literally can be 3 seconds. According to Tan, successfully reshaping our mindset has less to do with hours of therapy and more to do with some mental exercises, including one that helps you recognize thin slices of joy. These are events that are often unremarkable. It could be a bit of blue sky amongst the grey clouds. It could be that peaceful cup of tea at the beginning or the end of the day, or when you least expect it. It could be seeing evidence of spring emerging in daffodils or snowdrops. Although these thin slices of joy only last 2 or 3 seconds, the moments add up. And the more you notice joy, the more you will experience joy. Thin slices of joy occur in life everywhere. And once you start noticing it, something happens and you find it's always there. Joy becomes something you can count on. I often hear how people enjoy finding their thin slices of joy once they make a habit of it. Shall we try it together? Just take a few seconds to think, what was your thin slice of joy today? Here are some examples from others. Finding an umbrella in my bag when I needed it, especially today. Seeing a little robin land in the tree outside. Finding a parking space close to where I want to be. finding the dishwasher unstuck by my son, getting a seat on the train or the tube, or even in a waiting room, being able to use the milk way outside its use-by date. Once you've sniffed and you know it's okay. And getting a text from a friend, just that feeling of being connected. And why this exercise is my favorite is wherever I have done training for people, they often email me afterwards. Or if I bump into them, the first thing they say is, thin slice of joy. And they tell me exactly what was their thin slice of joy today. A lady recently I spoke to said she was in a bus that was crossing Tower Bridge and the sun came out and shone on the river. It was so beautiful, and that was her thin slice of joy. And it's just recognizing them, that they just stopping, just that moment of stillness and realizing they are there, and joy is really, truly all around us. And that brings me to the conclusion of our 5 resilience habits. As I said, one of them might speak to you and you might decide to try it. Start maybe with 1 and build up to 2. But it's about really investing in your own well-being and decide, is it going to be the 4-8 breath? Is it going to be a mindfulness grounding exercise? Are you perhaps going to start a journal? Maybe even a gratitude journal by practicing gratitude and just stopping while you're running around, feeling overwhelmed, having all those emotions that are difficult going through your mind. Stopping and saying, what is my thin slice of joy today? Because I promise you, you will find it. The other important thing to remember is often when I speak to carers, is that they're very focused on the person they're caring for. And they very much see themselves as people who are providing support. It's very difficult for them to refocus and think that they might be the person who are needing support. So therefore, I have put this quote on here for you by Brené Brown, who says, we don't have to do all of it alone. We were never meant to. People who are truly resilient have one thing in common. They have the courage to ask for help when they need it. And that is very important for all of us. So I'm going to just do a little bit of signposting here that you might find useful. Some of the signposting you can find when you access online facilities. You can email, you can phone, or you can text. And our first one is Mind. So I've said I'm from Mind in Harrow, but we also have a national Mind with an info line and text and an email. And that will be www.mind.org.uk. A second one that you might be familiar with, and if you haven't heard of it, this is really, really useful, is improving access to psychological therapies, or it's also called talking therapies. And this service is available free of charge on the NHS throughout the country. All you have to do is talk to your GP. Your GP can refer you, but even easier, you can self-refer. So if you have access to a computer, go onto your search engine and type talking therapies and the area where you live, and you will see the nearest service and you'll be able to self-refer. They do great work in groups on anxiety and depression, but you can also get counselling. Because it's free and it's on the NHS, you will also find there's often a waiting list. So I always encourage people not to wait. When you think you might need it, go for it. Don't wait another 2 months, because you might then have to wait another 2 on the waiting list. If you think you're ready to talk to somebody, or you think you might need help, then refer yourself or go speak to your GP. The Samaritans is a great service, and I just want to point out that they are a listening service. You can call them on 116 123, and that is 24/7. Whatever you're going through, you can call them free at any time. You do not have to be suicidal to call the Samaritans. They are a listening service. Anxiety UK, and I'm mentioning specifically Anxiety UK because often when we have a lot of worries, it can increase our anxiety. Anxiety UK support those living with anxiety and anxiety-based depression by providing information, support, and understanding. They have an info line service. You can email them or text them, and they also have a live chat advisory service. These services are available Monday to Friday, 9:30 to 5:30 p.m. And another organisation is SANE, and they're a leading UK mental health charity, improving quality of life for anyone affected by mental illness, including family, friends, and carers. Their website is www.sane.org.uk, and the SANE line is 0300 304 7000. We also have the campaign against living miserably, which is specifically targeted at men, and they provide a free and confidential helpline and web chat 7 hours a day, 7 days a week for anyone who needs to talk about life's problems. They also support those bereaved by suicide through the Support After Suicide Partnership. Their nationwide number is 0800 585858, and they operate from 5 p.m. to midnight, 365 days a year. And the last service I'm going to talk about is quite a new one and quite an exciting one, I think, because it's a tech service, and it's free and it's 24/7, and it provides support for people in crisis. It's called Shout, and it's an affiliate of Crisis Text Line in the UK. They provide free confidential support 24/7 via text, and all we have to do is to text SHOUT, SHOUT, to 85258 in the UK to text with a trained crisis volunteer. Every texter is connected with a real-life human being trained to bring people from a hot moment to a cool, calm place through active listening and collaborative problem solving. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you so much to Hanlie. That was really useful, and I hope those people who've joined us have enjoyed that. Also, I just wanted to promote, along with the resources that Hanlie has talked about, that we do at the Huntington's Disease Association have a virtual pop-in cafe, and that's a space where you can join other carers, you can ask a question, you can help other carers by sharing your experiences. That's also being funded by part of the Bupa UK Foundation, as was this webinar, and if you would like more information about that, please do contact us at the Huntington's Disease Association.